The Yankees' amazing start, and the Mets just trying to keep up. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy.
Welcome to the Blooper Show.
It's a late night Tuesday, and we're sneaking this one in because that wasn't a blooper of Dog, by the way. I'll let you know. I'll talk to you about that afterward. That was done by design. We are bringing you baseball. The Yankees off to an historic start, even for them, which makes it historic. And the Mets, in a way, they had all the headlines in the beginning of the year. They're kind of almost being overshadowed as they try to keep up with the Yanks. But it is
Here we go.
Tuesday night live, barely. It's almost Wednesday morning live as Riz and the dog bring you baseball and everything you want to know. Follow us at Diamond Diehards everywhere on social media, but especially on Twitter because that's where we're most active. You can follow the dog at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8. Most importantly, we need you to check out the podcast. So if you're watching on Facebook Live, that's great. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and give us a follow or a subscription over there. Totally free. Because we need those to round out our little business thing that we're doing over here. And if you like YouTube, the shows go up on YouTube as well. So subscribe to our YouTube channels. Look, you don't have to always go and find the episodes on all these different places and listen to them 5 times. We're not asking you to do that, but we just want your support in whichever way possible. And if you're one that is always watching the Facebook live streams, it is important for us to get you to subscribe on one of the audio platforms at least, and even on the YouTube platform. So this way, when you're surfing around like my buddy Tim, and then you click on the show, all of a sudden, you'll see Diamond Diehards episodes up there, and then that helps spread the word, and it gets into the algorithms and all that big tech stuff. So we do need your support. We're not afraid to ask for it because we do these episodes for not just ourselves, but for everybody out there to enjoy. The way that we start these shows very often is with a veteran of the day. We will do that very shortly. And the way we end the show usually is with a segment called Die Hard Dads. And we have a lot of fun and talk a lot of baseball and a lot of life in between. So we will kick it off with the dog and a very cool, as always, veteran of the day. Dog?
All right, thanks, Riz. Yeah, we'll go a little bit more lighthearted. We've had some deep ones for a while here, so we'll just have a kind of little fun with this one. Our veteran of the day is B. Arthur. So B. Arthur was
Maud,
of course. Well-known actress for decades in Hollywood, but not many people knew that during World War II, the Marines decided to allow women to serve as U.S. Marines. Because we needed everyone, all hands on deck, right? World War II. So they basically formed up and allowed to have women join up the Marines. And I think I'm trying to remember the slogan was it was basically like free up a Marine to go overseas was sort of the gist of it. I wish I could remember it now. It was a pretty catchy one. But B. Arthur signed up and became a truck driver in the Marine Corps, which looking at B. Arthur, yeah, okay, I could totally see that. I actually looked up, they actually have her personnel file online, so you can actually look that up. You can do a B. Arthur and then OMPF if you want to be really cute on it, and go look that up. They have some historic ones up on there, and you can see some of her evaluations and stuff. It's kind of funny. It was it was kind of bossy and opinionated, but very effective. So even back as a youngster, they pretty much had her spot on with that. So she actually wound up serving several years, and actually got out as a staff sergeant. So our veteran of the day is Staff Sergeant B. Arthur, United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi.
And then there's Maud. Does that count as an MM in the name game? That is the question, Mike Serra. Does it count or does it not count? So that's There's a little bit of
Little inside
there's a little bit of inside
baseball
there.
going on there.
There's a little bit. There's a lot of inside baseball going on there. So this show is also known as the Jerry Milani birthday show. So
Yes. Yes.
we're gonna wish Jerry
Friend of the show.
a happy birthday. Friend of the show, guest of the show, sometimes
Occasional
co-host of the
host,
show.
Brains on the show. That's probably fair.
Yeah.
Maybe Xavier.
Maybe Xavier Rizzo, producer Xavier, checking in tonight. And we did have a little production help here from Dominic Rizzo a couple of times too, and we'd be remiss not to mention Dominic as being help. He also created the jingles that we use here electronically. So there's Dominic doing that, and we just got back from Dominic's band concert, and they did a great job over there at Poe Go Poe Band, and that's why we come to you so late. If anybody's still up, hopefully they decide to be surfing Facebook while they're in bed, and go to bed with Riz and the dog. Boy.
More on that later.
More on that.
As we used to say.
More on that later. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Great job. Great drop. By the way, great job by producer Xavier. Save the band stuff for Die Hard Dads. Oh, that's why he's the best producer in the game, folks.
There you go. That's the brains.
He just saved my ass because I wasn't thinking about that. But this was one of these. Yeah, dog. We're just gonna wing it. So here we are. All right. So I just rolled in. And this is, if you're just checking it out, or if you're listening, more than likely you're listening to this on Wednesday, May 18th. But if not, well, either way. So this was the night that the Mets split the doubleheader with the Cardinals, and the Yankees won again, and they beat the Baltimore Orioles. So the Yankees, dog. 27-9 is historic even for them. So it's among their their top 4 starts ever in the history of the franchise. And the other 3 times that they had a start as good as this, they ended up winning the World Series. It's like all of a sudden you look up and they're now number 1 in run difference, which we were just talking about in our last show, how far ahead the Dodgers were from everybody. The Dodgers are plus 72. The Yankees are now plus 74, dog. This is getting crazy. Now, we have to tap the brakes a little bit, and you'll like this because we're rolling in here with the Yankees. And to be fair, I'm a Yankee fan. I think we do more Mets. I really think we do more Mets on this show. I think we do.
Yep.
They've been a little bit more better to talk about as far as like the New York area teams here the last couple of years, I'd say, just with off the field stuff and the ownership stuff and play on the field, not necessarily withstanding. It's kind of like what your expectations are versus what's happened in Rubber Hits the Road. The Mets have been a really good story here in the 2+ years that we've been doing Diamond Diehards. But the Yankees, after the Mets really stole the spotlight for all of baseball at the start of the season, the Yankees have wrested it away. But to tap the brakes, dog, you have to look at the Yankees game log, and you have to look at the teams that they have been playing. And one quick way, in a strange way, to do that is a column in the standings that I love to look at, and I think that I've gotten you to look at this, which is the team's record against clubs 500 or over 500. So the Yankees, out of their 36 games, they've only played 13 against teams that are over 500. Now, they are 9-4 in those games, so that's a good showing, obviously. But that's a lot of games against teams that are below 500. So that's why you have to tap the brakes. And look, I know, the Red Sox have been some of those games, and they're off to a worse start than expected. The Blue Jays are actually, I think the Blue Jays maybe were above 500 or maybe not, like at the time the Yankees were playing them. The White Sox, I think the Yankees might have knocked them back, so I don't know if they count. But the Yanks have played the Guardians, the Royals, the Tigers, Texas, those teams are all under or way under. So you have to tap the brakes a little bit. On the flip side, though, you don't give back the wins, right? Like
Yep.
if you happen to be rolling at a time, then that you're playing the weak sisters here, you gotta bank those wins. And Dog, the thing is, that's one thing the Yankees have not done well these past few years. They haven't just automatically destroyed teams that they should beat the way the Dodgers have, right? Like the
Yep.
Dodgers would just trounce these teams. The Rays, how about the Rays? The Rays were 18-1 against the Orioles last year. 18-1. I mean, come on. You don't even have to be decent against the rest of the division if you do that, right? Like so if the Yanks are beating up on these teams now, look, you take it, you put it in the bank. The thing you noticed that just really jumps off the page is not really their offense, Dog. It's their pitching.
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly the starting pitching. I mean, Nestor Cortes has been the great story for Yankee fans this year. It's that he had some excitement from this year, but boy, he's really come out and really been rolling. And Garrett Cole, also after a little bit of a slow start. A lot of us Met fans are having a little fun with Garrett Cole with a little bit of a slow start, but I mean he's been cranking away as well, and really that entire rotation has just been rock solid. And looking up, I mean that's the sort of key difference, right? It's the runs allowed only 104 for the Yankees. So, I mean, it really hits head and shoulders above other people, and with that kind of offense, I mean that's just tremendous combination. And that's sustainable for the year too, right? That's what you sort of like to see, right? It's one thing if like your bats are hot and your bullpen's okay, right? Those are the kind of teams that tend to kind of get exposed as the starters start to break down and the relievers can't go every day, um, and that starts to come apart. But if you have that solid starting pitching, that really sets you up for a nice long run.
Nestor Cortez is a great story, and I mentioned my buddy Tim before. We were talking about him this morning. My pal Bridget is president of the Nestor Cortez fan club and everything Yankees. It's unbelievable. Like I had to go back and just check his baseball reference page to be like, where like exactly did this come from? And there's no good answer. Like it's just the guy just found something at some point, and it's like I went all the way back. Drafted by I believe it was first the Orioles. Let me pull it up. And then let's see. I want to make sure I get the order right. He was drafted first by the Yankees. That's right. Okay, so it was the Yankees. 36th round in the 2013 draft, right? Hialeah, Florida. Originally born in Cuba. So he's in the Yankee system, and he ends up in Baltimore. Again, I'm just pulling it up now. I just looked at this stuff yesterday. Okay. He's a Rule 5 draft pick to the Orioles in December of 2017. That's how he ends up in Baltimore. So he's drafted in 2013. 2017 Rule 5 draft, he moves over to the Orioles, makes his debut.
You must have been
Okay.
oh so thrilled about that.
Oh wow, of course. So it was just
And so
it was December 2017. So in the ensuing season, what the Rule 5 draft means is, if you take somebody in the Rule 5 draft, if they're eligible, you get to pluck them from the other team, and you have to keep them on your major league roster for the entirety of the season. And if you're not going to do that, then you have to first offer him back to his other team for monetary compensation, which is not really much monetary compensation. So in 4 games for the Orioles out of the bullpen, he gives up 10 hits and 4 runs, a couple of homers, 4 walks. He can't get anybody out, right? So it's mop up time for him. He's pitching at the end of crappy games, and he's getting drilled. And the Orioles say, you know what? Our little Rule 5 experiment, I think, is just going to go by the boards. And in April 13th, by April 13th that season, he was already returned to the Yankees because they were like, all right, we can't keep this guy in
didn't
there.
work. Yep.
Yeah, it didn't work. We took a shot. He pitched in 4 games. He made the big club. Uh, you know, they gave him a shot. and boom, he was already done. Goes back to the Yankees organization, and he did pitch a fair amount in that 2019 season. So this is the Dog. This is the same guy that we're seeing right now that leads the majors in like ERA and ERA plus. So in that 2019 season, he's still only 24. Now this is not a guy who throws 99, right? He's a low 90s, mid 90s topping out on like his most awesome day. And he gets into 33 games for the Yankees. He starts one, and he pitches 66 and two thirds innings, and he was actually 5-1 somehow. I don't really know how because his ERA was 5.67 and his WHIP was 1.545. So he wasn't really doing great getting people out. He did have 69 strikeouts in 66 and two thirds innings. So of course, what does that lead to, Dog? That leads to November 25th, he's traded to the Mariners for future considerations, and it doesn't go well in Seattle. So, he gets into what, 5 games for the Mariners, and again, it's a horror show. Like he's even worse than he was
Winless
when,
in Seattle.
yeah, he was gets into 5 games. He's even worse than he was in his short, 4 inning stint for the Orioles. He makes 7 and 2/3 innings for the Mariners, and the Mariners are like, okay, right after the season, he's released, right?
Yep.
And so come January of 2021, he signs again with the Yankees. Now, what exactly happened is up for debate, I suppose. Um, but he pitches 22 games. He starts 14 of them.
You have Rodriguez's old blocker.
It's not a bad question to ask. So the one thing that you can say, okay?
Okay.
Here's the one thing that I could go on, Talk.
He's juicing.
Well, no, because he
Go
never
ahead.
threw hard. He never
Sure.
threw hard, and he's not throwing particularly. He's not throwing hard by 2021 and 2022 standards right now. So, the one thing I have seen and that I have noticed is that his K rate has always been good for a guy that doesn't throw in the high 90s. So that's the one thing where I could say, okay, he just was always able to strike guys out, even though he's not blowing the ball by people. And now at 26 in 2021, he just finds that extra little something, that extra little bit of control, that extra bit of craftiness. Maybe it's like throwing caution to the wind and saying, you know what? I've been kind of blown up here my first 3 chances. I got some stuff in my arsenal. I'm just gonna throw it all out there and see what happens.
I think it's. I think you hit it on it. I think it's really the walks. That was sort of the big. Looking at that's the sort of thing that really pops out to you is that, when he was in Baltimore and Seattle and terrible, he was walking almost a guy an inning. 19, just under like 4 a game, let's say. And now he's getting down to where it's more like 2 to 3 a game at this point, and that's making all the difference for him. His K rate's still kind of the same. His hit rate is down, right? So people aren't hitting him as much in 21 and 22 as well. So that's improving a little bit. But I think it's actually I think it's the walks are really the one that changes it. Maybe that's an indicator too that he's getting better control and taking more spots within the strike zone as well. So and that's why his hit rate is coming down as well.
It really is a great story because you look at the guy and what's there not to love,
And
right?
it's a classic lefty story too, right? Like lefties just take longer, right? And he's like just exhibit L of that, where it's just guy gets it again, especially with the control, right? A lefty like not getting the control and so forth, and it takes a while to lock that in.
Exhibit L for lefty. Yeah, good lefty, good yak man. But his numbers this year are astounding. And then if you put this year with last year, which I want to do, thank you, Baseball Reference. Okay, so if you combine his 2021 and 22 numbers, his actually so for the old school people who think that record is not a stat, well, you're validated because he's 4-4. 29 games, 21 starts, a 2.44 ERA. His WHIP is 1.008, so he's just above a runner per inning, but barely. 133 innings, just 98 hits. That's 6.6 hits per 9 innings. 36 walks and 36 earned runs. 152 strikeouts in 133 innings. So his K rate has gone up, which is really tremendous. Um, and that's maybe a little bit of the difference, like where you're talking about. The walks go down a little bit, the Ks go up, and like all of a sudden he finds the magic elixir there, or something, right?
Mhm.
So it is a great story. He's the type of guy that the Yankees haven't had, because he's a guy that like everybody kind of likes to root for. Whereas the Yankees just haven't had a lot of those guys lately. I mean, like Judge is one of those guys that he's kind of easy to root for. I would say, he goes across multiple planes, so to speak, and you'll hear a lot of people from different teams who are like, oh, if you had to pick a Yankee, who'd you pick? Oh, I like Judge, or I like. But now you have a few of these guys. You have Cortes. He's the best of the stories, right? Garrett Cole is not a guy that like other people are going to root for. He's a guy that like if you're a Yankee fan, you love him, and if you're the other teams, you're like, ah, screw that guy. He's overpaid and he doesn't have spider tack and whatever. But Kiner Falefa, like he's sort of a no-name guy, plays great D, slaps the ball around, puts it in play, does lives on the fringes, right? He's a scrappy ball player, makes LeMahieu look even more kind of scrappy the way he plays. Like he's another kind of contact hitter, put the ball in play kind of guy. And then you have a guy like Rizzo who has the charisma, you know, again, another good defensive guy. Like the Yankees just haven't had guys like that. And they've had too many of the kind of Stanton types. Like Stanton can kind of fall into the background a little bit and just play. And him, Rizzo, and Judge, first time Yankee teammates ever have had 10 or more home runs, three teammates in the first 35 games of the season. The Yankees, Ruth, Gehrig, Lazari. I mean, like Mantle, Maris, Dickey,
Maggio.
DiMaggio, right? I
Joe,
mean, like,
Joe.
well, maybe Bill Dickey wasn't like the greatest home run hitter, but like they just had so many Berra,
Yogi. Yeah.
and never have they had three players hit 10 or more home runs in the first 35 games of the season. So they're off to this historic start. They got that going, and the thing that Dawg is able to point out is really like forget about the offense. It's really the pitching. And it really really is. A lot of these guys, unheralded guys, but totally and completely led by the unlikely story of Nestor Cortes. The very, very unlikely story of him. It's really,
Yeah.
really kind of, but
I
from
mean,
the
team ERA 2.72. I mean, when do you think that was going to happen with the Yankees? That's all. I mean,
well,
look
wasn't that
back,
the
I can't remember last time the Yankees won team ERA that low.
I mean, really, wasn't that the whole question, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
heading
mean,
into the season.
I mean, you said you had to be skeptical, right? Other than Cole, and pretty much each other guy was like, well, he could, right? That was sort of like coming into last year too, right? So, well, they could, right? They had a bunch of guys like that. It could be really good or it could be really not so good, and they are all sinking on really good right now.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch, and the fact that you got uh, the fringe fan is already into it, and it's we're just pushing the middle of May here. I mean, that's good for baseball too. And let's take a little tangent here. Actually, first, should we do a little business first, Dog? Get a
Yeah,
little
let's do a little
business in.
biz. Let's do
Okay.
a little biz.
Uh, let's see. We're gonna change the order. We're gonna talk about Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, 1716 River Road in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. If you're in the Bergen or Passaic County areas, you need to go in and see Big Ed. I could tell you from my own experience, my vehicle goes in there filthy inside and out, and it comes out sparkling, and it stays. The thing is, I do talk about this all the time. I'm not making this up. I don't know how he does it. My car stays cleaner longer no matter what's going on outside. Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and check out the video that we did with Ed not too long ago. He's a great guy. I'm sure you'll be seeing him on these airwaves sometime soon. Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Dawg, nearby to Fair Lawn is Glen Rock, New Jersey. Gatto Acupuncture and Wellness. Book online at gattoacu.com, GATTOACU.com, or call 551-212-3845. If you're stressed out from running to the softball field, the baseball field, the band concert, whatever it is, work here and there.
And getting some bad calls.
Yeah. GattoAcupuncture.com. GattoAcu.com, or call 551-212-3845. 551-212-3845. FMSgraphics.com, a family-run, family-owned business for the last 50-plus years. Go there for all your printing and promotional needs. FMSgraphics.com. FMSgraphics.com for all of your printing and promotional needs. And, of course, if you are looking to do anything real estate-wise in the Northern Valley, Pascack Valley, and anywhere in northern New Jersey, you need to check out the Mascolo Group. Go to GaryMascolo.com, GaryMascolo.com, or call 201-615-3665. Happy birthday, Gary. Well, it's belated now, but you got the happy birthday on your actual birthday. Anything you're looking to do. You're looking to buy, you're looking to sell, you're looking to rent, you're looking to be the renter. GaryMascolo.com, or call 201-615-3665. 201-615-3665. Dawg, very interesting. Very interesting point brought up on the side here. We're gonna switch a little bit to. We're gonna sort of talk about hockey, but in a baseball kind of way. So our buddy Paul.
Not Uncle Paul. Well,
Paul G.
Uncle Paul,
Not
my
Uncle
kids.
Paul. Right. Not Uncle Paul. Not my neighbor Paul. Not my friend Paul. But our Paul.
Paulie.
Our
We should
Paul.
change them all to Paulie. I mean, we are a Jersey show, right?
Yeah, well, kind of. He's not really a Paulie.
No, he's not. Actually, yeah, completely not. No.
He's totally not.
Yeah.
Paul G. So Paul G made a great point. The Toronto Maple Leafs, for the 6th straight year, have made the playoffs, and they got knocked out in the first round. And they have a really good team, or what appears to be a really good team. And he said it's bad for the league. Like, they're a marquee franchise. They have the players. And the league is just better if the Maple Leafs can advance. They have the rabid fan base. It's going to be good for TV ratings. It's going to be good for fan interest. They're a love-hate kind of team. Like, people in Canada all have their own team, plus, they take the Leafs as a secondary team, or they just hate everything about Toronto. And you have the Montreal-Toronto thing, and the Canadians were in the Cup Finals last year, went all the way down to second to last in the league this year somehow. Anyway, so he makes a good point about the Leafs being good, and that's good for the league. So what we have here in New York in baseball is the Yankees and Mets being really good. Is it even more important in baseball, or is it less important because you don't have the salary cap and it's not as much of a national thing? Like, I don't know, Dawg. I want to see what you think. Like, is it important for the Yankees to be this good? It's definitely pushed interest in baseball in New York, like through the roof. Like, people are. I mean, the Rangers are in the playoff run here. They just had an overtime win in Game 7. They were down 3-1 to the Penguins. They decided to maim Sidney Crosby.
This win, baby.
That's they come back from 2-0 deficits within the games. I mean, so people are talking about that, but they're talking about baseball. Baseball is on the tip of everybody's tongue here. And, at first it was the Mets. Now it's the Yankees and the Mets. Is it good for baseball? Like, we feel it here in New York, but is it good for baseball as a whole for those teams to be good?
I think historically you would always say yes, because it's the media capital, or one of the media capitals of the country in New York. All sports coverage, et cetera. They always highlight, right? If you go into a post game press conference in New York, right, versus a post game press conference anywhere else other than LA, let's say, it's simply not the same, right? So that just by definition means that that's just more touches going out there, spreading the message about baseball, across the internet, right, and across the airwaves. So anytime you have a big market teams doing well, that to me is good overall for the game. Now, where you can argue is as you get more and more concentrated in, it's a more the haves and have-nots within, right? This just sort of reinforces it, right? So again, it comes down to the 6 or 7 teams that are the top of the payroll roster, and can you maintain a national sport if it's so concentrated in the coast, right? And can you spread that throughout the rest of the market? So far, you have been able to, but I think that's something clear to worry. But in terms of in the short term, yeah, absolutely. New York doing well, LA doing well. Both those, Boston doing well, though they're not right now. All those sorts of teams generally are good for baseball.
And what about the names? You got Judge. He's up to, as we say this, the stats for the May 17th game, I think are updated to this. Judge 14 homers, 30 ribbies in 34 games, a 315 batting average.
I like to call him the future right fielder of the New York Mets.
Oh, yeah, I know you'd like to call him that. 384.
Even Steve Cohen knows it's not too much.
384 on base, 1076 OPS.
Believes in himself and he's putting it up. That's great to see too. That's a great story, and that will be a big story, I think, going along. Right, the Yankees offer. I mean, honestly, the Yankees made him a very fair offer, right? I mean, I would think objectively, I think people said, that's a legit, no BS offer. He said thanks, but no thanks, and is going to approve it, and so far he's proven it. So I mean, that's always a great story, and he's a good dude, right?
Yeah.
It makes it even better.
Yeah, listen, I mean, if he's, the Yankees haven't been shy about paying people. They've kind of done the same thing. Now, they will negotiate with you. They usually don't ever negotiate during the season. And if that costs them at the end of the year, then it costs them, and they pay it. The thing is, like, listen, pay them more money, less years. That's what I always say, right? I'll give him more money per year. Just give him 1 or 2 less years, because I don't want to be strapped to it. If he's going to want the $40 million dollar contract, he's not going to get it. Like, he's just, as a 31-year-old player in free agency, like, nobody's going to, even if they're paying him $40 million, over a 10-year span, like, nobody's going to give him the 10 years, right? So even if they were paying him, I'm saying $40 million a season for 10 years,
average annual,
average annual value. So, what could he get? And what would he take? Would you give him $40 million a year for 5 years, or is he going to want 7 years? Right? Like, listen, if he's putting up numbers the way he's putting up now, I mean, he's easily worth it because he's in New York, right? But you're going to give him 5 years. What if he wants 7 years? And he says, well, I want, $40 million a year for 7 years. You're going to give him $280 million? I don't know. I don't think he's getting that. Is he going to get $35 million at 7 years?
It's like the Giancarlo Stanton, right? Honestly, looking back there, right? I mean,
yeah. It's like,
I don't know. And when what that was a lot for the Marlins. I'm like, if you're in the Yankees that entire time, would that have been a horrible contract?
I don't like the years.
Not great, but I don't know, right? If you're sitting there as the Yankees and it's not stopping you from getting other players and stuff, maybe that wouldn't have been such a horrible contract. right? It's a horrible contract for the Marlins because you can't sign anybody else, right? And your team's just going to suck. So, but if you're a top market team and you have a guy signed big bucks, I don't know. That, yeah, as long as he puts up decent numbers,
Yeah, but, well,
you can still put a good team around him too.
historically, you really, really, really pay the price as an organization when you're carrying those type of contracts when players are 35 and older.
Yep.
It's just, except now, the exception has become some of these pitchers, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we have to tolerate them missing a full season or maybe 18 months because they're going to have Tommy John surgery, but they're probably going to come back from it being just as
Better.
good or better. So, like, okay, we're kind of giving up like the average annual value there. But if they're out for an entire season and they don't pitch, then you can cash the insurance money on it, right? So that alleviates it a little bit. But the pitchers, like some of these pitchers, are starting to age way better, like Verlander and Scherzer,
Yeah.
and I'm putting DeGrom in there because he's gotten
Not
better.
sure he's aging great, but when he's out there,
Look,
right?
he's gotten better at a time when guys are leveling off or getting,
True.
or starting to taper down.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that going to start happening with batters? Like, no, probably not. We saw what happened. Like, when that was happening with batters, we knew that there was a definite reason why it was happening with batters, right? Like,
That is true.
It was the steroid era. That's what it was. Now, for pitchers, they don't maybe necessarily need it because now we talked a little bit about hockey, Dog. I'm going to talk a little bit about mixed martial arts here. And what happened in the earlier days of mixed martial arts is you had some older fighters, and this is the the drug thing notwithstanding, the PEDs notwithstanding. What you would have sometimes is the older fighters would still be in good enough shape, but they would get so much experience with the different forms that you use of combat in a mixed martial arts fight: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, even judo, but those basic ones, right? That these guys would have so much experience and they found so many different ways to win fights that the older they got, the more they had seen and the more ways they figured out how to do it. And even though they weren't as good physically as they were years before, they were actually better overall fighters because the sport hadn't evolved yet to the point where the younger competitors could gain all that knowledge at an earlier age. So, like Randy Couture is a guy that, it's a name that a lot of people who don't know much about the UFC or mixed martial arts, like they might be familiar with that one because he was a champ and he was a big name guy. Randy Couture really like started when he was like 33, which just seems crazy, right? And he just got better and better for a long period. Like his peak was very long. And one of the things he did was he fought at heavyweight, but he fought at a very low weight for a heavyweight. And he was a wrestler and he had, improved his striking skills. So basically what it means is what pitchers are doing. So here's the point of what I'm saying, Dog. Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, they know how to pitch. And they might not be as good physically as they were when they were 30, but there's so much in their toolbox, and you combine that with these uppercut swings, with the focus on launch angle and the focus on exit velocity, and these guys can just poke holes in that all day and night. And you look at the league batting averages going into the low 230s. Like these guys can just pick that apart. And that's extending the primes of a lot of these pitchers. It really plays heavily into the advantages of guys like Verlander, Scherzer, and DeGrom when he's in there. A guy like Cole hasn't necessarily, figured it out to that degree yet, but he's probably gonna. Nestor Cortes, who we talked about in the first section of this show, has completely taken advantage of this, right? Um, so to me, that's the that's relatable in contracts. Why, if I'm going to make the error, I'm going to make it on the veteran pitcher. Like, I'm going to risk giving the extra year. I'm going to risk giving the more money to that type of pitcher because now these pitchers in this day and age, like they're showing that they could actually do it. And, I think it's pretty clear that, there's not some kind of big, big steroid thing going around like there was. But I don't know. Very interesting, Dog. Very interesting stuff there.
Yep.
To me. To me.
Yep. I agree. Good deal.
You ready to talk about the Mets?
New Metsies, you want to do Die Hard Dance, or what do we want to? We can talk to Metsies for a little bit.
Yeah, we
Metsies,
gotta we gotta get
little
some Mets in.
Metsies. What's that? I don't want, we can just talk Yankees for a game for a time.
No, well, I built it in the beginning that the Mets
All
are
right,
trying to
all
keep
right, all
up.
right.
And we
So,
can't just dismiss them. I mean, they're still
not to be ignored.
they're still leading the actual division, right?
Yeah, I mean they're starting to hit a couple bumps along the way here. So a couple hard luck losses. Really gritty. I think Keith Hernandez was going to talk about on the broadcast tonight that there's a big time change in just their attitude. And sometimes they get sober played and stuff, but I think the attitude and the way they go about attacking the other team and attacking the strike zone and whatnot, that there's just a completely different organizational mindset that I credit obviously Cohen bringing in the guys and Epler and primarily you gotta say Buck that has come in, and they're just doing things smart. They're aggressive on the base pass, which they haven't been historically. Argues against all the latest data and so forth, but I think that clearly led to more opportunities earlier on in the season, and I think that was them forcing the game. And a lot of stuff we talk on Shigon and stuff, right? Just like stuff that doesn't necessarily make the number, but also that guy is under pressure and makes that error that he wouldn't have before, right? And that's where I think some of the pure data driven stuff breaks down because it misses that correlation between and the what do they call it, the interaction effect we would call it in stats and stuff, where you have an impact on what you're trying to measure. So all that is working for the Mets' behalf. So far they've been able to get by without DeGrom, which is amazing. That they've gone this far into the season and haven't missed too much along the way. And the other sort of funny thing is, like, there's not that many guys who are like raking, right? They're getting solid contribution, like 1-9. It used to be something I used to always admire about the Yankees was that, like the entire lineup hit, right? Like the Mets in general would tend to kind of get 2, 3, or 4 guys, you lump them together, and they would do well. And when they're doing well, they win. And when they don't do well, then you lose. But the Yankees would, especially in like the heydays of the 90s, right? It's like every guy could hit 20, every guy hit 20 to 25 home runs, right? Every guy hit, 280 to 320, got on base, did this, and it just ground down, and you wind up not having those long droughts because somebody's going to be on along it. And I think that's a lot of what's gone on with the Mets so far is, Marte, Escobar, Kana. I mean, they're all coming up. They're all clutch. McNeil is back to his 2019, just hitting the ball where it ain't instead of trying to jack the ball out. I mean, he's a classic one. He literally has gone back to the old school player he came up that was a fantastic before he got like power happy. He had that one little streak where he was going home run crazy, and it was fun for a while, but it really, I think, messed him up for the next year or so. And now he's back to, like, tonight. He had the game tying home run or game tying single, first and second. They had the shift on. He literally slaps it with 2 strikes. Great pitch down and away from Healy, and just goes with it, slaps it to left field, and drives in Lindor. I mean, and that's really emblematic of the Mets so far this season.
24 and 14. So that big stat that we talked about record against teams above 500, only 6-3, which is surprising. So they've kind of done the same thing that the Yankees have done here.
Mhm.
They've done it against competition that either is not good or hasn't been
Lot
playing
within
well.
their division, I will say on that. A lot them kind of beating on those guys too. In
Oh, it's
fairness.
even better, right?
Yep. Yep.
If
So
you're going to beat teams, if you're going to beat teams below 500, if you keep beating the ones in your division, that's a better chance that they're going to
yeah,
stay below 500, right?
that's it. So
Yeah. And the rest of the division is so as we speak at this moment, the Mets are 24-14, 5-5 in their last 10, a plus 36 run difference. Only 11-8 at Citi Field, 13-6 away. Um, Miami and the Phillies are 17-19. The Braves are 17-20, and the Nationals are 12-26. Well on their way to a really putrid season. A team dog that is 6-4 in their last 10 is the Cincinnati Reds.
who
They
had that?
were
Who had that in
they
the pool?
yeah, not me. They were so they're 6-4 in their last 10. That means they were 4-22 in their first 26. So they're 10-26 now, but dog, at least the Reds have rebounded a little bit, but now listen, as crazy as it sounds, in this day and age, it's very possible that you missed, not you, dog, but our listeners and viewers. It's very possible that you missed this. The Pirates got no hits against the Reds the other day,
Yeah, that was fun.
and the Reds lost 1-0 to the Pirates. And it doesn't even count as a no hitter because it only went 8 innings in terms
8
of,
2/3. Yeah.
yeah, in terms of pitching. So you have to pitch, there have to be 9 pitched innings for it to count as an actual no hitter, win or lose. Yeah, that just like summed up the Red season. However, they are 6-4 in their last 10. So and their run difference is now better than the Pirates. They're minus 64. The Pirates are minus 72, which is the worst in the majors. The worst in the AL is the Royals are minus 47. They're 13-22. The Pirates are actually 15-21. So they've played, win wise a little bit better than you might have expected based on everything that you've seen. Dog, the Cubs are 15-20. They've won 4 in a row. Their run difference is +5. Does this bode well for the Cubs?
I think so. I think they've been able to find a way. So yeah, absolutely. I think it bodes well for them.
Maybe they'll be a little bit surprised. Maybe they'll kind of pick things up because right now they're really mired in that Cubs, Pirates, Reds bottom part of the division with the Brewers and the Cardinals vying for it near the top. At least that would make it a little bit more interesting right there if you had the Cubs kind of turning it around. NL West, man, the Padres, um, it's funny because they're 23-13. The Dodgers are 23-12. The Dodgers are plus 72 run difference. The Padres are plus 19. So that expected win loss, that's like when you see in the MLB standings, it's X-WL. Expected win loss basically is your games and your run difference, and then they kind of figure out like based on that what your like what your run difference is, what it projects to as what your expected win loss would be. So the Dodgers expected win loss would be 25-10. They're 23-12. The Padres expected win loss would be 20-16. They're 23-13. So they're getting the better of that, and thus they're a half game behind the Dodgers in the NL West. The Giants are 21-14. They're plus 34. They're exactly where their expected win loss would be. And the Diamondbacks 18-19 and the Rockies 17-18 have played well above expectations so far. We'll see if they can stay in it there for a while. We didn't expect the Giants to even be in it last year, and they won 107 games and somehow won the division. That division just looks real good right now.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
NL, we covered. AL West, Astros 24-13, Angels 24-14, same record as the Mets. They would be maybe 25-13 if Noah Syndergaard didn't get rocked on uh, on Monday after he was blasting the Mets on Twitter
That
about the.
that was sort of funny. I gotta
I
stick up for
know.
Noah a little bit. I mean, he was taking a little shot, but Met fans got a little touchy with the whole deal.
I know. I mean,
That's
come
just
on.
come on, guys. Like he wasn't like I mean, he wasn't bashing away. It's like a little. There was a little tweak along the way. It's like,
He
come
was
on.
that was fun. That was
Yeah,
not.
exactly. Yeah, people need to calm down a little bit. I'm like, we're in first
Yeah,
place. Relax.
that was. I don't think that was like the wrong spirit that he had behind that
No,
at all.
I don't
I
think so
think it's
either.
Thor being Thor.
Yeah,
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. You don't
yeah,
need to push him into that bad guy category.
yeah.
Run difference for the Angels, dog, plus 54. They're behind only the Yankees, and the Astros are plus 46. Everybody else is not within an earshot. The Twins plus 14 are the next. So you could already see the way it's panning out. Like there's very few teams that are even plus in the run difference in the AL. The White Sox, dog, are 18-18. They're minus 26. So we'll see. They might go on one of those runs at some point where like all of a sudden they play like 3 games and their run difference gets to 0. Somebody did that last season. I forget who it was. I'm like, wait a minute, this team was like their run
Oh, I
difference was
remember you
like
talking about that too, but now
their
I of
run
course can't
difference.
remember either right now.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, that was that could be interesting. The Mariners have really regressed here, dog, and Jared Kelnick got sent down. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't see it got sent down. No, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know he
he
had
did.
been not been doing well. I was having a little fun with it, but Twitter was having none of it when I was saying the Mets are winning so much they even won the Cano trade.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a little tongue in cheek, but it's actually not absurd anymore. Right?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Don't tell Uncle Paul that.
Oh, he's not a fan of that. So
Uncle Paul's going to be upset that we did a show so late. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? I was looking for the show on Monday night.
that is true.
Guess what, Uncle Paul? Happy Wednesday.
we
You
did it
get to
early.
watch it.
We did it early for
Yeah, we did it
you.
early for you. We did it early. All right, Doc. I think we ran it down pretty well. Should we switch into the final segment?
Sure.
And the final segment is called Die Hard Dads. So I went to Dominic's band concert tonight.
There you go.
And it was really
How was
good.
the concert?
It was really good. The band director, she's a mainstay, um, and it was her retirement tonight.
Ah, okay.
And
Hmm.
boy, I tell you what, it's amazing that they have so many talented kids that work so hard. You know, we're kind of ingrained here in the sports world when we do the show, but you know, I'm a band father. I'm a a TV father. You know, because producer Xavier works on the TV station and in his school. I'm an ice hockey dad. I'm a softball dad. You're a big dance dad, baseball dad, makeup mogul dad,
Sure. Whatever it takes.
whatever it takes. Like, and it's just great that like it's so easy to see with sports, right? Like you go, you know, Xavier goes to Bergen Catholic. I mean, pretty much we can count on there being like some pretty big football games every year at Bergen Catholic, and them like last season basically just winning all of them, and destroying a lot of like the good competition in there, and that gives you some great moments and. Like there's Ramapo usually has a bunch of really like their baseball teams are usually really good. Their softball teams are good. Basketball, it's a good sports school. Man, the band is good. It's good. There's so many kids. They have so many just layers of orchestra in there. A lot of hard work. And you know what, dog? The thing that I really love to see, these kids like really enjoyed it. And they were giving their band director like they got up and nobody had to tell them to get up. They weren't the one like the standing ovation came. It started from the kids that weren't, there was a lot on the stage, a lot on the section on the side. And they're the ones that are getting up. They're the ones that are applauding profusely and whistling and screaming her name. that's a good experience, because you never know what you're going to get in school. Like, I mean, you could go back and, sometimes you remember a coach, you remember a teacher, a lot of them you forget, but the ones that you remember really make a good impact. And, Dominic got to talk to her a little bit afterward, and the other people in the music department over there. Look, he's not like some big superstar doing it or whatever. He's just one of the kids that does it, and he's known and he's appreciated and he appreciates them. And it's just, it's a nice uh, non-sports experience for the parents to be able to see that. So that's my how's that? Good diehard dads from me. Good
That was
job.
a goodie. That was
And
a
a good
goodie there.
job by a good job by producer Xavier, making sure I saved that for Die Hard Dads, and I didn't slip it out earlier.
There you go. Absolutely good. Good stuff. I'm gonna do a. Actually, I'll do. I was thinking of just passing. I'm actually gonna go with my godson. So I'm gonna stretch it a little bit here. So my nephew Sean, becoming the first doctor in the Healy family. So he actually graduated from medical school, and is now going to do family medicine, I believe, up in Cincinnati. So starting his residency for the next, I think, next 3 years, doing the residency up there. So I just got moved up. My brother John drove him up from San Antonio to Cincinnati, which is a non-trivial drive on there, especially starting, I think, on a Friday at, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock, of course, so getting crushed in traffic throughout everywhere. But congratulations. He always had to. He wasn't super duper at the standardized tests. Even though he's obviously very smart, very bright kid. Always had to work hard, probably harder at that, to kind of prove his way up on it, and got a master's along the way in chemistry, and then finished off medical school, and now starting up his residency. So really easy young man to root for at this point. So great job, Sean Thomas Healy, down from the Georgia Healys, now from Texas, and now back in Ohio. So congratulations to Sean, Dr. Healy.
Dr. Healy is this is his second mention in a row, right? Because wasn't his fellow graduate the veteran of the day last show?
I believe so. Yes, that is
That's
correct.
right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. She's off fighting helping people in Ukraine, I believe, right now. So yes, pretty exciting there.
Oh, by the way, what I thought was the best song that I heard all night was a composition that included parts of the Ukrainian national anthem and Russian folk songs. And Dominic's part of
Interesting.
Dominic's part was in that too. He was in a bunch. And it wasn't. I was like, wow, I thought that should have been like maybe the finale. That was the best song. And Dominic was like, yeah, that was that. He thought that was the best as well. So there you go.
That's very cool.
It's all on our minds now. And of course, they were playing the stuff from West Side Story, and I had to make my comment to anybody who could hear. I'm like, neither the Sharks nor the Jets are in the playoffs anymore in the NHL, but nonetheless,
everybody dug that.
Nonetheless, we have West Side Story. I think it was only producer Xavier that heard me say it, and I don't know if he gets it because I don't know if he knows anything about West Side Story. Although I have to say, sometimes he surprises me.
When you're a Jet, you're a Jet all the way. Let's go. That was my brother's wedding song. He had a whole West Side Story thing.
Really?
For his wedding, yeah. So I grew up listening to West Side Story all the time because he would play it all the time. So yeah, little trivia for you there.
I got to see the dog dancing to. Who knew we were going to talk about West Side Story?
Anything can happen on Diamond Diehards.
On the next Diamond Diehards, show tunes.
We'd have to have Jerry come on for that. I kind of
Yeah.
feel Jerry would just wipe the floor with us on that
Yeah, he
one.
would. He would. Show tunes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
movies from the 1940s. Yeah, good movies. Good movies. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, the Jerry Milani birthday show went pretty well,
I
I
think so.
think. And hopefully my voice linked with the audio on the video. I think maybe it got a little bit better as we went along. So thanks to producer Xavier for the tech help right off the bat. Thanks to you, Dawg, for fitting this one in. I think we're gonna sneak another one in before the end of the week. Sans Dog. We're gonna have Mike Applebaum back. He did the Masters preview with me. We'll do a little preview of the PGA Championship, which will not be including defending champ Phil Mickelson. So we got a little storyline on that. So we'll see if we could throw that one up before they tee off on Thursday morning.
Dog, we're working on the next segment of Die Hard Dads. So
yeah, Dog's already getting his show tunes ready.
Tonight.
So actually, there's a funny story about that.
Uh-oh.
So do you remember? I don't know. I don't expect you to remember this guy. I remember him because I was working for the Ticker, in the '90s. So I knew and every baseball player that even got a cup of coffee. So there was a pitcher for the Brewers named Steve Sparks, and he was a knuckleballer. I think he was a knuckleballer, and he was one of the guys that used to be able to tear the phone book in half.
Okay.
Remember
yeah, I do remember. I remember that shtick for a while. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that Steve Sparks was the guy who, back in the days of media guides, basically that some PR flack would come down and
tell me something weird about yourself.
or you'd fill out a little something for your bio. Tell me something weird. So apparently, with Steve Sparks, you could go back and check one of these Brewer media guys. I might be botching this story completely. So if you know the actual story, or if I got it right, just at Diamond Diehards on Twitter and at Jeff Healy 8, the number 8. So Steve Sparks, they got a hold of his thing, and the guys on there put loves listening to show tunes, and it got into his media guide entry. And I'm pretty sure it was Steve Sparks when he was on the Brewers, maybe '93. I don't know. We gotta see that. Might have to Google that. I'm not going to Google it now because every time we do that, the show goes off the rails. And instead of finishing up nice and tidy, it ends up going way too long. And we already went too long because the dog needs his beauty sleep. And when I say that, I really mean that I need mine. That's what we mean by that. Okay. Follow the show everywhere on social media at Diamond Diehard. Subscribe if you haven't done it, and you've made it this far. I hope we've earned your subscription and your support. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, YouTube, and the Facebook group, the Facebook page, whatever, wherever. We just need your support, and we love your interaction. So check us out there and follow us on the social media stuff. Because again, the more people that are following there, the more that it helps us with the algorithms, and then when we're bringing you people like Gatto Acupuncture, Big Ed's Car Wash, FMSgraphics.com.
Get more guests for you.
And the Mascolo Group, then, it legitimizes everything. So we're working hard over here, and we want to do well for you making content and for our sponsors that have been helping us out and continue to do so. That is going to do it for our version of the Tuesday Night Live. We tuck it in just before midnight on Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. For the Dog, Jeff Healy, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.